Hello, everybody, and welcome to Conservatish episode 245. My name is Peter Feliciano. Wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, rate, share, review. That helps the algorithm and other dumb gay things that influencers have to say. You can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano and on Twitter at Rule62Peter. And and I have a show coming up, my first show in 3 years in Austin, and it's going to be over on at Swan Dive in Austin on January 14th. So everybody go get your tickets and go there. Ladies and gentlemen, Chrissie Mayr. Yay!
Yay! First show in 3 years. What happened?
Well, I'm a musician.
Oh, okay.
And I was living in New York.
Okay.
That's what happened. I moved to New York in September of 2019 or October of 2019, but I was living in Long Island because I'm a white trash, half white trash.
That's where I'm from. I love
exactly. That's why
great.
we get along. But I'm also half Puerto Rican, so I'm really New York. And I lived there, and then when I finally signed my lease, I was working in Greenwich Village. I finally signed my lease in Manhattan, and 2 days later, the city got shut down, lost my job. We were all going to die.
That's great timing.
Yeah. So I haven't been able to perform in a couple of years, but I moved to Austin in July, and so now I'll get to perform.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. How's things with the city?
Things are good. I'm going, it's sort of ish. I can't tell if things are like really back swinging again, or this is just the influx of tourism for the holiday season. Like we're just pretending things are good and back because, French people want to walk past Macy's windows.
Right.
So
right.
Like I hope for the business's sake that it is truly bouncing back, but who knows? I think a lot of people it's not like people are going to move back who moved across the country, bought a house, like started a family in the last couple of years, and so it's like they're still going to get the influx of 20-year-olds that are like, let's see what New York City is like.
Right. But I saw Friends.
Yes.
That's why. Yeah. That's what I really believe killed New York. Is that Connecticut white motherfuckers watched Friends and Sex in the City. It was romantic to them, and their daddy could afford an NYU, acting degree, so they came to New York. And then they get a little older, and now they're working at a fashion thing, and now they get it doesn't feel safe. Big Daddy government, make me feel safe.
Like, let's have a realistic Sex in the City where it's somebody living with 5 roommates, and everyone is either a waitress or a barista, or maybe they're also rooming with people who have real jobs, like they work in like banking or like corporate media or something, and like let's see how that plays out. Like,
right,
when people can't pay their rent, or you get kicked out of your apartment for hooking up with somebody, which happened to me. It's like the real sorry, I didn't know people were home.
Oh no, Carrie's overdosing on PrEP. That's really what it should be. Yeah. So you are a comedian. Where can people find you, my dear?
Well, my website, ChrissieMayr.com, has all my links to tickets to upcoming shows. December 28th, I'll be at the Grizzly Pear. December 29th, I'll be at Stand Up New York. And then the first weekend of February, I'll be in Rochester. And the last weekend of February, I'll be in San Diego at the Mic Drop Comedy Clubs. And I'm adding more dates all the time. But for now, just go to my website, ChrissieMayr.com. And internet-wise, Mondays, you can find me on Compound Media at 7 p.m. Eastern. My show is called The Wet Spot. And then Fridays, Friday Night Tights on Nerdrotic's YouTube channel at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. And then Sundays is I have a show called The Simpcast, Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern on my channel. And then I'm probably live streaming it in some form, like just about every day.
Right. So I actually saw you guys, you and Gino, at I think it was Stand Up New York. I remember it was winter-ish. It was a very good show. You're fucking hilarious. Gino is, I mean, no one,
Gino's great. Gino had a great set in Orlando, in Florida. What was it? Yeah, when we had the Content House weekend, he did great. He was in his element. But that was also a very based crowd, like pretty like right of center, pretty anti-woke. It was so great. I remember I said to that crowd, I was like, do we have any Democrats here? And it was not a peep. I was like, There's either none of you here or you're scared into silence. Either way, great.
Right. Because how do you think we felt? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm gonna be a real brave soul. I'm gonna make Trump jokes. Wow, truth to power. Fuck off.
Yeah.
No, I love Gino. He's such a sweetheart. And
Gino's very misunderstood. Like I understand how people find him annoying, but whatever. Everyone's annoying
yeah,
at some point.
yeah. So you're on the right show then. Yeah. So I think in general, I just wanted to talk about comedy and stuff. But what I'd like to go down that road where you're talking about like New York. I've been talking about it a lot recently. So before I moved to New York, I spent 15-ish years in San Francisco. So
Oh
my
wow. Are you
theory,
from there?
no, I was born on Long Island.
What
And
town?
I was born in Huntington.
Oh snap. I'm from Rockville Center.
Nice. I also grew up in Brentwood.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is. What is that, Suffolk?
I don't really know. I was
Okay.
like 9 when I moved away.
Okay.
I don't know. Hopog. I went to Hopog a lot. There you
Wow,
go.
that's very nice. That's a
Yes.
very nice area.
there were sidewalks there. And I moved to Cali. And what I saw happen to kill San Francisco is, I believe, the same energy that's killing New York. And here's what my theory it is. Obviously, like I was saying earlier, it was the Sex and the City Connecticut kids, but it's also everyone has to agree with me. Everyone has to agree with me. We're all the good people here. Those flyover states where there are more black people than San Francisco. Those flyover states, they're the racist ones. They're fucking their cousins. You know what I mean? They only like guns because they're murderous white supremacists, blah, blah, blah. And they never leave those areas. But no matter how crime-ridden and shitty and culturally vapid it gets, the price will continue to rise because culturally, they know that some tech douchebag will pay it, right? So that's what killed San Francisco, and I believe it's the same energy that's killing New York. What are your theories on that?
You really think it comes down to how much tech companies are willing to pay to like base their companies out there, basically?
No, I think the amateurs.
Oh, you mean like
Amateurs.
people who work in tech will still find that to be the trendy place to live, and they'll be like, right, because culturally people live where they know there's a lot of maybe like other like young single, probably like young professionals.
Right.
And that always used to be like defaulted to just any city, really. And now it's like, well, which cities? Like, it's now, I don't think young people had to think about this very much when they're thinking about what city do they want to live in to maybe meet somebody. I don't think politics even mattered, but now they really do. It's like, do you want to, the kind of person that wants to live out in LA or New York, much different than the kind of person who's like, no, I'll try Nashville. I'll try like Austin or Dallas. Like,
Right.
and it kind of forces younger folks to like almost like pick a side politically, which is like, it's bad if you don't really know and you're not really politically literate, or you're not interested in learning about history, or you're not in a place to be red pilled. But if you are, it could save you a lot of time dating a lot of people who won't have the same values as you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so often, so frequently on Tinder over the years. I even screenshotted one. I found one in Austin, everybody, in what month is it? December of 2022. I still found a chick last night who said that you have to be vaccinated and tested. Like in December of 2022.
This chick must not be aware, because now they're actually pushing to create like unvaccinated blood banks, because there was a case where I think this dad or this couple had this 6-month-old baby. This was in New Zealand. The baby needed open heart surgery. Parents were totally on board with the surgery, but they wanted the baby to have unvaccinated blood, and they had a bunch of their, I guess, friends that were unvaccinated like lined up to be donors, but the hospital like wouldn't let them do it. They didn't want to set a precedent. I think the hospital doesn't want to admit to the fact that people why would somebody prefer unvaccinated blood? They don't want people to start looking into it and then having that start to be a thing. That opens up a huge can of worms. Long story short, the fucking hospital or the government ended up taking control of this baby, like through its surgery. Like, it's now that baby belongs to the government because these parents wanted unvaccinated blood for their kid. It's fucking crazy. But no, we still have 25-year-old chicks being like, you gotta be vaxxed and boosted.
Mhm.
It's like, all right, stay on TikTok. Yeah, just keep TikToking.
And that's part of the reason I moved to Austin. There were many reasons, mostly that Austin is musically and culturally relevant, and I don't personally believe outside of comedy. It's still relevant. Broadway, TV, movies, I guess. They ain't no fucking music over there. There's no more fucking
In New
music.
York City, no. I think
No.
once they shut down CBGBs, that was kind of like the last of it. And I would see bands perform at like the Rock Hall. What was it called? Was the Rock Hall? I can't remember the names of the venues, but man, I used to really be into seeing this one band live, and like people probably will make fun of me for it, but it was called Pearl and the Beard. They were from Brooklyn. So fucking talented. It broke my heart when they broke up. This one girl, I think the two girls still perform a solo. What was the point of bringing that up? Is that it was I don't know.
You had a lot of fun, maybe?
I feel like in the 2010 that was in the 2010s, right? I
Right.
was going to concerts all the time. It did feel like there was a music culture sort of in the city, but then I forget what year CBGB's closed down.
I mean, but that's what I was emotionally, mentally prepared. I was like, "Ooh, New York's really hard." I'm like, "Yeah, but there's things happening." Like I
Right,
was
it's
down
worth
for
it.
I was down
Yeah.
for the competition because I'm better than everybody. I was down for the competition, and I knew I had the whatever. I mean, everybody's like, "I'm gonna go to New York City and make it." I didn't have lofty dreams or whatever, but I was ready for the fight. And then when I get there, it's like, there's no more fight. We're gonna go lock yourself in your apartment, blah blah blah. And then in the ensuing, it's been 2 years now. I paid, around about $3,000 for a fucking studio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm paying almost half that for a 1-bedroom apartment in a city that that are tons of performances everywhere, and you can have guns. Like it's chill here.
Wow.
Like Austin is not as blue as people in Texas want to make it believe. So
Good. That's good to know. Man, and like I never really lived in Manhattan. I lived in Brooklyn, I lived in Queens. But I feel lucky enough to have had that like city experience only because I am from Long Island. It like wasn't a big deal to just like move 45 minutes away
right.
and have like I really give people credit who moved to New York City from like the middle of the country or like really had to like have a ton of savings. Like I always had like, all right, well, I figured if I screwed up, I'm just gonna go back to Long Island. But
Right.
I
Just text my
really
mom.
didn't want to. But that is cool. And I like hate to say that because my parents like weren't giving me money, weren't paying for my rent, weren't helping me find work or housing or anything. Like, but they were there, So
Right.
I could go back and like live in my old room. But that is cool that Austin is less blue because I thought it was getting bluer. I think because the last time I was there a couple of years ago, they had a real problem with the homeless like just taking over the streets, basically under like some sort of camping loophole.
Right. I believe they've officially gotten rid of that.
Okay.
But my thing is always, and it's trite or whatever in the game that we're in, like, oh, politics is, downstream from culture. But I really kind of think, I mean, there's some legitimacy to that, and I kind of even here, even though there's definitely a couple districts where there's some blue-haired, and by the way, if anyone wants to, because I'm trying to use identity politics to kill identity politics, right? Because I'm a half spick, right? So I can, someone comes in swinging, you're racist. Oh, I've only been called Nazis by white motherfuckers. But so there's a lot of, it's very white. The more white a city is, the more liberal it is. And Portland, hi, I'm talking to you. And but like, so there's definitely pockets of that, but you throw a rock in any direction, you hit a good old boy. You know what I mean? They literally have to put up signs that say, please don't bring your gun into this Starbucks. You know what I mean? Like that's refreshing as fuck.
But what are you going to do? Leave it outside, like in a locker? Like what do people go put it in their car, I guess?
Yeah. People have vehicles here, not like New York and
right.
whatever. Yeah. When did you start doing comedy in New York?
2010, March of 2010. Did Bringers, did my first couple of big shows at the old New York Comedy Club and then Comics on 14th Street, which is no more. And yeah, I mean, like, every comic is different with their, journey. But I mean, I've been in it 12 years. I now can say I only was working hard like maybe half of that time. You spent a lot of the years, you're like a mic here, a mic there. You're not getting your social media together. Like you have no goals. You're not measuring anything. So,
So you
but
were a
that's,
comic for a few years. You were a comic in name only.
I, well, some people define, like, I think some people define comic as like they won't even consider you a real comedian unless you no longer have a day job. And if that's the case, I've only been a real comedian for 1 year because I've always had to support myself literally up until last December. Like it's
Right.
almost exactly a year ago when I got fired from my corporate job in media for not being vaccinated. So I was like,
You
well,
got fired from a corporate job in media for not being vaccinated.
mhm.
Wow. Okay.
And I'd
And
always kept it really quiet, and I'm figuring out, like, how and when to talk about that because I know that it was also very much politically motivated, but they were able to get me out on the vaccine because
and
that was the thing.
see, that's the theory that I've had. So obviously liberals wanted to punish us for years, right? They
Mhm.
could censor us. Um, but now they had justification because we were grandma murderers.
Uh-huh.
Now they could
Right.
segregate us. Now it was morally righteous to put a yellow star on us and and
The
fucking
left
kick
don't
us out of
care
our job.
about morals. They were entrusted as they became the hall monitors of society. It had nothing to do with morality or what is right and what is wrong. Like they're like, "Oh, we can demonize these people we already can't stand. Great." And we have the full blessing of the federal government, the CDC, everything.
Right.
Every authority figure is giving us the go ahead. Yeah. This is great. We're going to enjoy this.
Right. And the more that bubble, the more that I mean, I had so many people. I don't know exactly what your experience was, but I had already kind of been practiced because of the year of being, kind of chilling in my apartment most of the time anyway. I had been kind of practiced of like, oh, I don't get to go to a restaurant. Like I'm like, that's not gonna make me, oh, I don't get like, I can go for a run on the like. It's not that big a deal to me. It sucked.
Yeah.
I fought it. I went to rallies. I talked about it nonstop on this fucking show. I made memes. Blah blah blah. I fought.
I fought in the war. I made memes.
I swear to God, it is.
That's
But
real though.
that is real because when you're alone in your apartment because you can't, you're not allowed. You're not allowed. Um, you
And you
know.
were in Long Island when this was
Oh no no.
happening?
I was in Upper West Side.
Oh, shoot.
I was
Okay.
in the thick of it. I was in
Wow.
yeah, the whitest part of the city. I was
Dang,
in
that's hard. I remember that time because I'm still
yeah,
going to the city every week
yeah.
for my compound media show. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? If I never go to another restaurant in New York City, I'm fine. I've been to tons of restaurants. Like, honestly, they're out of my price range anyway. I know
Mm,
that I can go to Sullivan's across the street and I can go to this other deli to get my coffee. I think I'm good. Like, I think I can handle coming in every week still. And I don't, it's like I've been to Broadway shows, like I've done nightlife. I'm not looking for any like random dick. I'm not trying
mm,
to get drunk and see where the night takes me, like I'm good.
right.
But I did have to come to a place where I was like, oh, I'm never going to go into a real restaurant again because I was not about that fake vax card life, which a lot of people
No.
were using it and like no big deal. And I was like, don't you guys have scruples? Like, don't I'm like, of course it would have been the easiest thing for me to also do that. But I was like,
Right.
no one is seeing, like, no one is zooming out and seeing, like, if we're not fighting this at this point, like, what is coming next? And,
That's what I appreciated so much about you and the Compound Media Click and Gino and whatever is that you like it's so I've been a comedian. I've been a fan of comedy for fucking years. I know it's trite, and everybody says Patrice is my favorite, but Patrice, sorry, he was what got me into all that shit. And I read every Colin fucking Quinn book, and and
mhm.
I'm gonna talk some shit
We're
potentially
a
about
comedy
people
nerd. Yeah.
that that whatever. But so I was deep into that shit. And one of the most disappointing things about the pandemic and the reaction to it was I was like, oh, all these comedians that I have looked up to, who I know are rebellious, subversive, fucking troublemaking motherfuckers who always point to both sides, like South Park Frank Zappa. Everybody gets a bullet, a pox on all your houses. Yay. But like, I'm like, oh, these. I'm not saying that every comedian or artist I love needs to be, you know, a fucking Alex Jones, but like, I'm gonna perform at a place that requires fucking vaccines.
Nope.
That is morally repugnant.
You being there, even if nobody knows who you are, even if you have 0 fans, that is still you supporting that and saying that this is right. That is you still, even if you buy one drink at, you know what I mean? Like, why would you give your money to a place that's doing that? And I get it. Oh, peer pressure. We're all pressured. Oh, the businesses don't want to close down.
Right.
But you need to send the message somehow. And I thought it was so wrong. Like, I was so disappointed in how few comedians actually were willing to stand up and like protest it, I guess. I mean, I think I was one of the first who said I'm not going to perform somewhere that mandates vaccines. And then Jim Brewer started saying it. I was like, thank God, because he's much bigger. A lot more people know who he is. But that was kind of it. I mean, who else was it? Was it Elton John? There were a couple of like big musicians. Who was it? Eric Clapton. Right. There were a couple of like
same thing.
I'm like, that old fruit. No,
Right.
there were a couple, but not as many as you would have hoped for. And it's like, damn. And then you realize at the end of the day, like, comedy and Hollywood are really intertwined, and most comedians don't see a way to success and fame that does not involve Hollywood. So to break away from that, even if they, or who knows, maybe very many, like maybe most comedians did not have a hot take when it came to the vaccine. Who knows? Like maybe a lot of them were all on board, got the vax, didn't look into it themselves, didn't have any, you know, like trepidations about it. Who knows? Maybe they had a very safe take about the vaccine, and none of them were self-censoring. But if they were, like, that is so sad and pathetic, because it's like, why the fuck else are we comedians? Like, why are you getting on stage? This is a freedom of expression issue. This is a medical freedom issue. This is a human rights issue. It's a constitutional. It was crazy. I was like, wow, you guys just don't fucking care, do you? You just want to get famous. Like, it's disappointing.
And even worse than that, what really disappointed me was, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it fucking again. And I'm not, you know, hey, everybody cover your ears. But Colin Quinn, in my personal fucking opinion, is the greatest, one of the greatest living comedians. Like, I adore that motherfucker. Read all his goddamn books, blah, blah, blah. But like, not only like he performed at a place in, I think it was February or maybe it was November of last year, that required vaccines. But when you look at his tour, he also across the country, he also performed at places that didn't require the vaccine. So it wasn't a moral issue. It wasn't, I really believe that only having vaccinated people around me is the way to go. It was, well, I'm in the principality, but
I'll go wherever.
I'll go wherever. But that motherfucker,
I'll take whoever's money. Yeah.
Right. But he's not a goddamn open micer. He's not somebody, he's got to have, his shit's all over Netflix, all over CNN, all over, like, of all fucking people. Yeah. It was so disappointing.
God, he could have, a lot of these bigger guys really could have taken a real stand and made an example and like made themselves proud. I don't know, but then maybe they just don't fucking care. That's what's sad, is like, the pandemic showed us like what our entertainers are really made of, and like what it's you can't be like, oh well, they would have stood up, but it's like, no, but they didn't. And whatever it was, money, fame, relationships, like that was all more important than standing up against authoritarianism. So,
and I feel like you taking a stand really actually turned out, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think probably turned out to your favor, not just something you could sit in your, you know, by yourself with no shows. Like,
it was,
you know,
scary. It was scary at first. I was like, I can't believe I'm about to send this tweet, like saying I'm done performing in New York City. And I had no idea how long it was going to last. It was me basically like, yeah, this major city that I'm 45 minutes from, I'm just not going to do shows here. There's still 25, 30 different clubs, venues I can like get up at. Yeah, I'm just gonna say no. I'm only gonna perform in Jersey and then like get on flights to do comedy. It was scary, but then I was like happy I did it. And now that it only really lasted a year, I think I started back performing again in August. It's like the time flew by, and it's like I didn't really miss much.
Right. And I'm sure you also got a lot of based motherfuckers who were kind of hungry for that, not
It
just in New
felt good.
York.
It felt really good to do. In hindsight, it's like I was not sacrificing like very much at all, because I was like, well, I can do more time on the road anyway. Like, yeah, I was passed at a couple of clubs, but I already, like, I live in Westchester. It's not like I was in the city every single night doing club shows. I would do them whenever I felt like it, whatever was convenient for my schedule. So I was like, all right, and then of course you have, like, I remember when I made the stand or whatever, I think it was like Kevin Brennan or a couple of other comedians were like, what clubs is she even passed at? She's like, the fact that I'm not performing at the Cellar means that this doesn't count, that it's not,
Right.
and I was
It's
like,
not
all
really
right,
a
wow.
sacrifice.
So it's so much easier to bag on other people, like from the safety of your home where you're taking no risks. And I mean, I guess Kevin's taken other risks, but not everybody wants to fucking put their ass on the line for shit like this.
Right. Do you feel like you got a ton of, I mean, because okay. As I said on the last show, and I've said it on a couple, this show is called Conservatish, right? So it's the only, one of the only shows you can talk about voting for Trump and eating ass in the same episode, right?
Ooh,
And maybe we'll get to that. But
those are my two favorite topics.
right. But so when I have somebody who follows me online who has, their picture is like an American flag with an eagle in front of it, them with,
On a
shades on in their
motorcycle.
right.
Yeah.
Them with shades on in their car, in their truck. I'm just like, bro, I don't know. But obviously you got, based patriot, whatever the fuck you want to call it, followers from not just your comedy and your skits and whatever and compound media, et cetera, but from saying, fuck it, I'm not going to perform at places that require vaccines. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And it was really good because those, like, success in any industry, whether it's comedy or like music, but I think more so comedy, because your personality is really infused into your work, less so than it is with music. Because comedy's like you're literally just talking, you're telling an audience who you are, and music is like, okay, I'm just showing you my talents. I mean, also, like, if you're listening to the lyrics, you can also say like, okay, this person's telling us who they are.
Right.
But with comedy, it's like you're really putting yourself out there. So I was happy to do it, because that this industry is all about, like, okay, who are my fans? Who likes me? And how do I find more of them? And by making bold decisions creatively and even like politically, the communities are like, oh, I don't want to get into politics. It's like, you're missing out on finding more of your fans. Like, figure out what issues you feel passionately about and speak on them. And like, that's how you're going to find more your people. Maybe you'll lose some fans, but you'll cultivate like your real like authentic following there. Like, the more you can let the public know who you are and what you stand for, like, you will find people who also stand for that, and they'll want to come support you, buy your stuff, come see you live. So it was ultimately like a huge positive.
Right. And that's what I've been trying to tell people, that the water's warm. There's not much that you sacrifice. Obviously, some people did. I defended, regular amateur vaccinated people on an episode a couple of episodes ago. But like, when I started this show, I was like, should I, oh, I don't know. And I just came to the point of like, okay, I might sacrifice some fans, but I'd rather not get caught later on. Meaning, as that, fucking, Patrice used to talk about, like, the reason why Michael Richards and Paul Rubens really had a hard go of it is because they had a separate character that was outside facing, and then the veil got dropped and they got caught being themselves,
Oh,
and
wow.
jerking off in a theater or whatever. But it's an
I don't do
interesting
it.
thought. And so I just jerked off everywhere. No. And so I was just like, I don't want to get caught. Here it is, everybody, long form. Let's talk about shit. I'm going to piss all of you off and love all. Be great. And I, like I said, I lost a couple of acquaintances, a couple of white motherfuckers, but that's really about it. That's really about it. And my circle I was thinking about it a few weeks ago, like some of my most valued relationships and friendships would not exist without me just starting the fucking show.
Mm-hmm.
Something as simple as that. I went to the shooting range a few days ago with somebody who met me just directly from this show. And we just had a
Wow.
blast. You know what I mean? Like, so much of this is happening, you know?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured and it was in chunks too. Like whatever, when people are like, oh, how were you canceled? It really happened in phases. It was like some of it was when I stopped hosting a show at the Stonewall Inn and started hosting a show at Compound Media. Some of it was when I made fun of another female stand-up comic, and she basically like spun it into I'm convincing people to threaten her, and it was really crazy. Like this person just couldn't take a joke. It was extremely woke. I did impressions of her, and instead of go and watch the actual footage, which was on up behind a paywall, I get it, Compound Media, but like pay the $8 and see what someone is saying about you if you're that curious. If she had done that, she would have realized like it really was just all in good fun, doing a parody. Uh, so that was like a huge wave of sort of cancellation that happened within the comedy community. Then you realize like there is no people are only as nice to you as what they think you can provide them with. You know, if people think you can provide them with opportunities, they will be nice to you. When I was hosting a show at the Stonewall Inn, everybody's in my DMs. Everybody wanted to get up, especially when it became a really hot show. It was there for 6 years. It was a Saturday night show in Greenwich Village. It was hot. Everybody wanted to get on it. And I did a really good job of cultivating like up and coming LGBT talent, but also getting like seller regulars. So it was a very good show. But now I'm on Compound Media, and like certain people just stopped talking to me. I do an impression of this woke female comic. They go, oh, well, she's got a Netflix credit and you don't, so we're gonna be on her side. Certain people stop talking to me. I'm open about voting for Trump. Even more people stop talking to me and fucking with me. Oh, I'm at January 6th. Another wave of people stop and then actively talk shit. So it happened in chunks, and I'm just like, oh, me just living my life is causing like huge swaths of people to just stop working with me, being friends with me. And then I was like, at first it hurts, and then you're like, oh no, it's fine. Like it's called being an adult, and that's how you find your people who you're going to get along with anyway. So you might as well just get it over with.
Right. But I'll ask you, and I already know the answer, but have you ever stopped being friends with someone because they voted for Biden?
God, never. I'll stay being friends, and I'll make fun of them to their face. I'll be like, really, you happy now? Like, we both didn't think he'd make it this long, right? Like, can you
Right.
believe he's still standing? We thought Kamal
Right.
would have pushed him off the cliff by now.
Right.
Yeah,
Diaper filling
that is
motherfucker.
what is I'm finding is like the major difference between the left and the right is that the left wants the right completely obliterated, and the right just wants to be able to debate and have a conversation and wants like equal opportunities for conversation, basically.
Right.
And now everything that's come out with the Twitter files is like, wow, it's really interesting. It's good to see proof of something many of us were suspecting of for years.
Yeah. 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 No, if I hadn't been shadow banned, I'd be fucking Tom Cruise level by now, you bastards. And yeah, and I've never, I never like, fucking unfriended somebody because they got the fucking vax. I never unfriended somebody because they voted a certain way. I'm like, hey, even, throughout my life, I've practiced that muscle, especially because having a show where I talk all about it, right, is like, I've had socialists on my fucking show. Every once in a while we'll send each other a message, but most of the time it's love. Most of the time it's love.
This is how it's not about the vaccine, because prior to COVID, there were actual anti-vaxxers, people who like have kids and they go, I think there's a real link between like autism and vaccines. Like there's crunchy people who just give their kids no vaccines. Those people were not vilified the way that people who wouldn't take the COVID vaccine were vilified. It has nothing to do with that to vax or not to vax, to who the fuck you're voting for or not, because most people are dumb and don't actually know the policies of who they're voting for. They don't know the policies of the other guy. It has everything to do with mob psychology and like fitting in versus not fitting in, and which side is the culture and the media supporting, and which side are they vilifying, and do you want to fit in or not? And that's really what it comes down to. Like, are you willing to not be liked and stick out or not? Or you're deathly afraid? Like people make the comparison, like zebras have all those crazy stripes because they want to all blend together, and because standing out means life or death, and humans are kind of similar that way socially sometimes.
Right. And who, to tie it back to the earlier conversation, and who is the type of person who might be the most desperate for attention and approval? The physically weak white tech nerds, or the douchebags in comedy who are, stepping over people's heads to try to get a spot, right?
Mhm.
Or people in LA who are
Right.
like, I'm there. I work for Sony. Yeah, I can have
Actors who have no scruples, who will literally like do anything to get
Right.
ahead.
Right.
It's specifically a group of people who all they care about is fame and getting ahead and money and like making it. So
Right. So all I guess we can wrap up that part of this conversation. Just we're better than everybody. So
right. In summation, we're better than everyone.
yay.
Yay.
But I do actually, there is a little truth to that. There is a little truth to that, just in the idea of like, I know I can sleep at night without fucking melatonin. You know what I mean? I know like
Yeah.
I'm better in my gut. You know what I mean? I treat people with
Yeah.
respect. I match their energies, and and I'm an open person, So fuck it. I'd rather be that.
Yeah. Oh, I feel good too, knowing like I didn't keep family members from seeing me at the holidays. Like, gosh, you hear so many horrible stories. Like, people had a birthday party, you couldn't show up unless you had your proof of your negative test. But not only that, they would test you again when you got to the party and actually boot some people out. Like these are family. This is friends. Like there are families ruined over this. There are people who are not on speaking terms anymore because of this
Right.
last 2 years.
Right. And not just that, but in the most liberal cities where, again, they have the least amount of black people. Brownsville, by the way, stayed super fucking unvaccinated. Okay. And that's the blackest part of New York. So there you go. But like a year prior during the BLM riots, it was like, just listen to black people. White people need to shut up. And then a year later, they're like, okay, not only is it's racist to show your ID. I know we've said it a million times, so fucking, I'm going to say it again. It's racist to show your ID to vote, but it's not racist to show your ID to get into this, Chuck E. Cheese's. You have to have your vax card and your ID, and they segregated, what was it, 60% of black people in New York?
Right. Oh, like, yeah, listen, Black Lives Matter. But what if the Black Lives don't want to get vaccinated? Ah, you're dumb. You don't know any better.
Black Lives Matter unless the black person doesn't like Jews. Then that black person doesn't matter.
Remember, like, this was a part of the vaccine culture. Certain people, and I think like this is mostly like a woman thing, like a white woman thing, would get all into buying their like vaccine lanyard with their fucking the slats for their punch card and their ID, like getting so into, oh, this is my travel passport with special slots for my vax card. People all about it, like so excited to A+ it for the government. Ugh.
Right. And for those of you who are in Wyoming, this is a very New York, both of us had this New York City, centric experience with the mandates. Like we actually lived that shit, so even, a few episodes ago, I defended the amateur vaccinated. Again, not the people who were pro mandate, everybody, just the people who just got it in fucking what, January, February of 2021. They didn't know any better.
Especially like they got a lot of people early on who love to travel. They got a lot of people early on who need to travel for work. They got a lot of people early on who just really felt that like they just the early adapters before a lot of the information was coming out. Like not everybody is a super free thinker that like it does. A lot of people trusted the government before this and just were like, sure. And then a lot of people were like, nope, not getting boosted, not getting any not getting the second one, third one, like done.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean,
65. And you can't fault these people. You can't hate on these people because everybody is just doing the best they can with the information they have, and everyone's coming from a different place and a different level of curiosity about their world, trust in the government, germophobia, all these things play into if you got it or if you didn't. Like, I just don't like being told what to do. And I kind of felt the same way about like vax as I do about anal. I'm like, the more you pressure me, the more I'm going to say no. And I'm getting a lot of pressure.
So it was
you're going to have to wait till I'm asleep and then try again.
Right. Or bribe you with a donut. Once that, Bobby with a
How
Krispy
sad
Kreme.
was that? The sandwich, the free sandwich, the free donut, the I remember guy with like the Metro North, they're like, "We'll pay for your train ticket." Ugh.
You could
No.
literally get bought for fucking $20. Come on.
Mhm.
But those people, they not only did they not know any better, but a lot of them. And once I made that tweet, essentially defend the amateur vaccinated people, and I wasn't necessarily saying it to like amnesty, forgiveness, fuck you. What I'm saying is, let's not do an end zone dance in
Mhm.
the faces of the people who are suffering, who have
Right.
myocarditis. Maybe let's be a
Yeah.
little patient. Not that we shouldn't tell them, hey, the reason why we're in tyranny is because you trusted the government. But we still need to let them in from the cold and give them some fucking soup in a blanket. We still have to
Right.
let them intellectually, emotionally into
And
this fight.
we need those people because those are the people that are in a position to speak out about their
Right.
vaccine injuries, about their friends and family vaccine injuries. So we can't make enemies of these people that they probably feel really fucking stupid. And imagine like every night you go to sleep, you're like, there's something crazy going on in my body. I have no idea if I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. It just came out. Celine Dion has something crazy called like stiff person disease. And guess what? It magically popped up October of 2021. What could have happened then? So you feel for these people, but there's a lot of weird new diseases and shit coming out. There a lot more kids getting heart attacks, a lot more athletes getting heart attacks. Like it can only be a coincidence for so long.
I had a friend tell me recently she knew somebody whose son, a fucking child, had 2 heart attacks and didn't survive the second one.
Oof.
Right. I
That's
mean,
so
this is some
sad.
heavy shit. If we're
Yeah.
going to move forward in the, I hate to sound like a patriot, but like if we're going to move forward in the fight, we gotta be a little open. We got to emotionally evolve, level up, to let
That's
people
so
in.
sad. That's really sad. Yeah.
So in the harshest transition ever, you don't like anal? Is that what you're saying?
No, unless it's a
No?
birthday or a promotion or something really important is going on.
Really important.
It's not
Okay.
really, yeah, part of the routine anymore, which is good.
Okay. And I'm sure obviously a lot of people Simcast I've looked at. Obviously I know that Star Wars girl, Anna, she's a sweetheart. But like I've looked on a couple episodes of Simcast, like definitely some sexual things. Wet Spot, very much. Yeah, definitely some porn stars, Mike Harlow, he's a slut. He's been on there a few times. Um, do you find it difficult riding the difference, or your legs spread in different worlds between the
As I
conservative.
straddle my
Thank you.
position.
Exactly. um Spreading your lips into two different
Ew.
into I mean, we're very
Flapping into different it's like I'm pulling back the roast beef curtain of truth.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, listen, girls, by the
Ew.
way, fun side note, I know I'm sure a lot of, whatever. Don't feel bad about the size of your pussy lips. Don't feel bad if you're a little more meaty. It's okay, everybody. It's all right. It's not,
Yeah, have you seen
1979
balls
anymore.
lately? There's no good pair of balls either. Get off your high horse.
Uh, um, so do you find it difficult straddling those worlds?
No. At the beginning, I would get probably I still do get shit where people are like, "Oh, how dare you call your" people put you in a box,
Hmm.
and then when you do something outside of that box, it disrupts them. Like, "Hey, shoot, I wanted to like you, but like, and I thought you were conservative, but now you're talking to sex workers. Like, should I still like you?" It's like, and it's a good reminder to myself, like, try to resist the urge to slap labels on people unless they are slapping them on themselves. Like if I was going around saying like I'm a mega like Republican, conservative, religious, all the things, and then you see me doing something that's outside of what I've decided for myself, like sure, call me out. But like I'm just I'm a comedian. I'm like all about free speech, and I guess that's probably medical freedom, other things. But yeah, I have tons of friends who are like do OnlyFans, do porn, like, And some chicks are great at it and some chicks are not cut out for it. And it's like the ones that are not cut out for it, that stay in it, that's when the toxic stuff happens. That's when like you get into a bad situation and you feel taken advantage of. It's like because you're not built for that. So sometimes I will get people being like, oh, like every time, like sometimes Compound Media fans are like, oh, no more whores, like no more like OnlyFans girl. They have nothing to say. And then when I have a show, a wet spot show where it's all guys, they're like, where are the girls? There's no
Right.
women. There's no
Right.
tits. And I'm like,
Right.
okay.
Right.
It's just like you're not gonna make everybody happy. So make yourself happy and just try to book the most interesting people you can and stay focused on like, well, what do I think is interesting that's going on right now? And just like trying to stay true to yourself and not get super hung up on how other people are categorizing you.
Right.
I think if anything, like, yeah, I'll be like, yeah, I'm definitely libertarian.
Right.
Kind of normal on most things.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even investigated whether or not I'm a classical liberal. Like, I don't, labels again. I mean, that's why the fucking show is Conservatish, because I'm like, yeah, there's can't I like gays and guns? Like, why do I have to pick a fucking side? As long as you're not telling me what to do with my mouth, my body, my wallet, my kids, my whatever, whenever I have them, just leave me the fuck alone, bro, and fuck the government.
Well, the thing is, their jobs depend on not leaving us the fuck alone. That's why racism was reinvigorated in the last, couple of decades, because we had it down in the 90s. Like we were good. And then people are like, oh, well, we have a job working for certain foundations and organizations that get a ton of money on the fact that racism is still a thing. So let's pump this up again.
Mm-hmm. If you're concerned about if you ever done any research, everybody look up where certain parties get their donations from. You know what I mean? Gun activists are always like what's that fucking NRA? There we go. The NRA donates, okay, it's like literally like $5 million fucking dollars. Okay, it's not very much money. The women's rights organization to the Democrats was like fucking 25 million. I can't remember the numbers, but I looked it up a few years ago. I'm like, who are you complaining about?
Yeah, we give like how many times more money to the Ukraine? We left behind how many millions of dollars of weapons in Afghanistan? Oh, but the NRA? Okay, sure.
Right. They're mad at their dads. Again, it's an extension of the Connecticut thing I always talk about. Like, and I've dated a lot of Connecticut white liberal girls. I understand the animal that they are. There's a either dad left or dad was mean or dad was a wimp. Have you ever noticed that, like when dad's a wimp, it makes women even more angry? Have you noticed that?
That is interesting. I've seen women that I went to college with end up marrying wimps, and then they are like very cunty and harsh. I think it's because they resent that the men are not. They resent that they have to be the strong ones. But that's the thing is like you attract, kind of like you yin and yang. You attract the opposite and equal of what you are. So because they're kind of forced to be like more aggro and masculine, they're gonna attract like maybe a more like chill dude. But they want the alpha, but they're not living their life in a way that would attract that. So they're like frustrated about it. A lot of women give off that energy.
Right. And they live in places where alphas don't really exist. I'm sorry, but there is no, I was the only one in the Upper West Side.
There's no alphas on the Upper West Side?
Nah, bruh. Unless they're, no, Black, Puerto Rican. I'm just saying, like I remember literally thinking this thought when I went driving into Oakland one day, into Berkeley. And I was driving through Berkeley, and I'm just like, obviously, blue hairs and white, fucking college town, and all these crunchy, not even that. Liberals want it, like they want to have the visage of crunch, but they are not actually crunchy people. You know what I mean? They like the heroism, the unearned heroism.
Of crunch. I like that.
I know. I'm incredible. But like they had and I was just thinking to myself, the only way manhood is allowed in this town is if they're Black. Like, because the white liberals in that town don't know enough fucking Black people and they're intimidated, right? So when they come across one who's got his pants sagged and listening to whatever and just like, hey, mama, blah, 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 they're like, oh, they almost see us like, and they see people of color like animals. They're like, oh, aren't you cute? Like, look, he did a math equation. Like, it's it's that level of like, okay, you're allowed to do man shit. You're
Yeah.
allowed to do man shit, but like white guy who again reminds me of my dad because he looks like my dad, you're not allowed because patriarchy, right?
Right. Or just being afraid to criticize somebody who's black because you don't want to be seen as racist. So you tiptoe around everybody.
Right. I'm very happy at the very least, regardless of what anyone feels about Kanye, that it's signaling another level of the death of identity politics. Makes me really fucking happy.
It's so funny. The outtakes of him with his conversation with Gavin crack me up when there's a clip of him going, well, you know, like blacks are mostly responsible for most of the crime, but when you meet a black person, you put that behind you and you start fresh. Do you do that with Jews? He's like, nope. It's so funny.
Right.
So
I
funny.
really feel, and I had a conversation about this with Mikey the other day, and Adam Coleman. You ever met
I
Adam
love
Coleman?
Adam. Yeah.
He's such a sweetheart. I love him to death. I had a live debate, because we're all three people who love and respect each other. I was the only one. One was a Jew or a half Jew. One was a black guy. And I was the douchebag kind of defending Kanye a little bit. And by the way, defense of Kanye does not mean yay 24. I don't want him to be president, but it's still, whatever. My thoughts are like, I mean, it doesn't, we don't have to necessarily attribute hate if he's also a new Christian. If you've known new Christians, everybody, you know how fucking obsessive compulsive zealotry that happens. A little bit of, he's definitely going, oh, you don't want me to say this or you're going to cancel me? Fuck you. I'm going to say it 58,000 times. He's definitely pushing. He said it multiple times that his version of what the word love means is different than what a secular person's is, right? I'm like, this is more complicated than just is hate, anti-Semitism,
Yeah, he's a kind of a, he's got a creative like ADD brain. He's not polished. He's not like really thinking that much about what he's saying. And then some people are like, well, I think he meant this. And some people get mad, like, oh, don't try to smooth over what he's saying. And then some people are like, he's having a manic episode, disregard everything. And I'm like, I just want to hear about what the fuck the Kardashians are like. Like, can you just tell me what's going on inside that fucking cult? And then Alex Stein put out a clip where he was at, one of his meetings, town hall meetings, and he had like a stocking over his head, and he's talking about how like he's saying he reps Kanye, but he is a very smooth planter of seeds, a smooth dropper of truth bombs, because he's like, Kanye said something about the Nazis, but Operation Paperclip, we hired a bunch of Nazi scientists who started NASA. So what about that? I'm like, he is so smooth. I love the way, like, he's also a madman, but like I like the idea of using comedy to subtly drop little hints to people, and then they go, what is Operation Paperclip? And then they're like, oh fuck, like, and that's how you can open up people's minds, instead of what a lot of people do is like, oh, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, and then being preachy, because that's not going to make anybody curious to look something up if they're being told that they're wrong and they're stupid. But if someone's funny about it and you're like, well, what's this? And then you learn something.
Right. I think even fucking who's that famous? Oh, Dalai Lama. Who's that guy delivered pizza? That Dalai Lama said like laughter is helpful because you can it opens your mind. You know what I mean? I think that's a similar thing. When people, I've said it before or whatever, but like if you ask, especially a white woman, right before she goes into a comedy club, would you ever laugh at a rape joke? She'd be like, no, I would never. Oh, no. And then when the lights are all down and everybody's riding the wave that comedy creates, that the comedian creates, and it was just, and punch and push and pull and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, when no one's looking at her and she's not even looking at herself, she's laughing at a fucking rape joke.
That's the point. You want to, as a comedian, get someone to, I have a joke about necrophilia. Same thing. It's like, I want to get you to a point where you're laughing at that. Because like it's my job to like charm you and get you on board with like my line of thinking, and like also pull you out of yourself. Don't worry about the bad day you had. Don't I'll make fun of myself so you don't feel as bad about your own shit. Like we all have shit going on. So
right.
Yeah.
You're a hero. We'll start wrapping up. I would like to hear about, well, do I want to hear about the you said something about, yeah, fuck it. Everybody talks about hecklers. Fuck them. I want to hear about what your experience has been, or what other people have talked about on Simcast and on Wet Spot and whatever, of the type of woman who is not cut out for the stripping, not cut out for the OnlyFans, not cut
Okay.
out for the porn.
Well, having a low self-esteem is not enough. Sorry, ladies. He's just it used to be, yeah, they just show up bright-eyed, bushy-tailed with low self-esteem. You're like, you can make it, kid.
Right.
But
Do you know your dad's number? If that's the
you right, daddy issues is not enough. You really have to be predisposed to like that open relationship. I think if you're sort of like hooking up with a lot of people and it's not hurting your feelings, you're not getting attached, like you might be a good candidate for porn because you just have the disposition to like, because you're not getting attached, you're not going to get hurt, and then you're not gonna get this I feel used feeling. You have to be like, obviously, not only just physically in good shape, but like you have to be able to like it's a lot of physical activity like down there, like you have to. And sometimes like it can fuck up your pH. What did somebody say that like you hold like the memory of the cum of like every guy you've ever been with or something like that, like your body remembers. I don't know, I'm gonna have to look into that more and get back to you.
It's like Highlander pussy.
Like a sponge, a
Right.
cum sponge. Yeah, I guess you just have to have like you have to be kind of good at compartmentalizing and a little disconnected.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've met and been with women who like that happens naturally, and then I've met and been with women who they're doing it like the whole thing you said at the jump about having sex frivolously, who are doing it to get back at the ex, who are doing it to get back at, to punish themselves. Like there's a line there where it's just like, oh, I can do it. And then when you're by yourself, you're like, eating tons of food and trying
If
to
you're
drink a lot
doing
and
it
you can't
to
handle it.
avoid intimacy, if you're doing it to avoid being hurt or attaching to somebody, like that's not good.
Right. But there's a certain level of person where it's just like, oh, no, I could see that. I could see them being a whore. It's okay. And I have nothing but love in my heart for whores,
They're great. We need them.
We do.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, Chrissie, for coming on the
Thank you
show.
for having
It has
me.
been a blasty poo. I'm glad we could finally get it together. Where can people find you?
On YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, obviously like Instagram, Twitter. My website is chrissiemayr.com. Compound Media. Also, just around. And I'll have to get you on my show, Peter, too. This was fun.
Yeah, I'm a blast. Wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, share, rate, review, or you're racist. And I love you all very much. Bye, everybody.
Bye. And sexist.
Right.